reality therapist perception.
Bachelorette. Hello and welcome back to Reactivity TV, where we share our therapist takes and perspectives to all of the trending shows and movies that you are watching. I'm Amy Albero.
And I'm Catherine Van Eyck. And we are here to talk to you about The Bachelorette Season 20, Episode 2 with Charity.
Yes. I have to say, I was watching the episode and I was like, oh my gosh, I've missed this. Like the stupid, cheesy, fun.
I kind of like just feels like summer.
Yes, it's like a perfect light summer show. I liked that it was kind of making fun of itself and like brought the Yosef reference to the dodgeball game. I mean, I enjoyed it. I'm having a good season so far, 2 episodes in.
I'm glad.
What stuck out to you this week for Charity?
Okay, a few things, but one small thing that I just wanted to react to is at the beginning of the episode when Jesse Palmer comes in to meet with the guys and tell them, like, you know, that things are getting started, blah, blah, blah. He made a comment about Brayden's look. Brayden was wearing a scarf thing and some dangly earrings. Immediately, I was like, I've seen this before. I've seen this on The Bachelorette. He's trying to be Nate Mitchell from Gabby's season. Only, I have some skepticisms about Brayden's look where I didn't with Nate. With Nate, he had that look right off the bat.
Yeah.
And Brayden, to Jesse's defense, he kind of was like, it looks like you got the rose and now you're just like doing whatever you want. It kind of looked like that. It kind of looked like I got myself safe and now I'm going to like do this new thing and see what happens. Mm-hmm. Whereas Nate, he had this style right off the bat. But what I didn't like really was that Jesse was calling him out on it. I thought that was a little mean, to be honest. If this actually is Brayden's authentic self coming out in the second episode, then that actually was not cool of Jesse to do. He didn't do that to Nate Mitchell. Mm-hmm. So I don't know why we're making a big, this isn't my style. This isn't what I'm attracted to. But like, why are we making a big fuss out of what Brayden's wearing? We're only calling more attention to Brayden than he already is calling to himself. So like, let's just let him be and not poke at him because that's what he's looking for. That's what I think he's doing in putting on these new outfits and dressing the way he is. And he keeps calling attention to He's like, I'm wearing my velvet shirt now. And I don't know.
Right.
So I have some issues with it.
Yeah, no, I like the comparison to Nate from Gabby and Rachel's season because Nate just kind of screamed authenticity in a lot of ways. I mean, I know he had some like off-show stuff going on that maybe questioned like the authenticity piece. But as far as we saw, he seemed like authentic. I totally am with you. Like when he wore jewelry, it seemed just like so him and his style, and he just kind of owned it and he didn't draw attention to it. It just was there. One thing that I do remember though, and don't make fun of me for knowing this, is that in Brayden's cast photo that they put out ahead of the season, he's wearing a lot of jewelry. He's wearing earrings, bracelets, rings, a lot. And so it seems like maybe this over accessorized vibe is more of his style, which then begs the question, why didn't you come out with that on night one if that was who you really were? And so it definitely kind of calls into question, again, authenticity. If this is who you are, great, dude, own it, show up and just kind of own who you are rather than, like waiting till you're safe to show who you are. There's a very obviously like human part of that. And like, it's definitely less vulnerable when you have the first impression rose to like go all out and, take the mask off and be who you are. But I do agree. Jesse kind of calling it out was like unnecessary.
Yeah, didn't have to be done. And like, I'm all for, okay, you don't have to dress the same every single time you're on the screen either, or every single day. But it did seem like what we're going to see of him in the coming episodes is this other look that he didn't have that night. So like, if it was going to be a variety, if he was going to go back and forth between these different looks, then I would kind of get it. But it doesn't look like that is happening.
Well, I wasn't actually planning to talk about this, but speaking of different looks, are we thinking that Nehemiah was right about Brayden? We're seeing a different side that maybe, Charity was kind of warned. There was some hesitation there from her brother's part. And maybe this is what he was picking up on, this kind of competitive, self-centered, just like kind of douchey dude at the core of who Brayden is seeming to be.
Yeah, he might be right. I don't know. We'll have to see. But more and more, that's what it's looking like to me.
Yeah. But what I also had a little moment, and I guess it kind of continues off what we were just talking about, but it was when Charity was on her one-on-one with Aaron, and she is in a face-to-camera interview, and she says, he seems like a really good guy. I'm usually a good judge of character, but I don't want to say it because I don't want to be wrong. And I thought to myself, like, I picked up on it because I feel like that kind of like safety net that Charity was kind of like, that she had that hesitancy to kind of put it out there, to kind of claim this, to put her opinion out there, to put, I don't know, to own something is such a really typical thing that people do. In a grander sense, I think people don't maybe communicate their feelings because they don't know if it's going to, a relationship's going to last, maybe posting about something on social media, not knowing if something's going to pan out, whether it's a relationship or a job or just something that you're excited about. Like, there is this part of us that wants to keep our ego protected. And so we often do hold back, even if we are excited. It's almost as though like we can't really let ourselves experience or lean into joy or just these like smaller moments that are meaningful to us because we're afraid of what an outcome might be. And it really picked up on that with her because again, it resonates so strongly with not only me, but so many of the people that I work with.
Yeah, I mean, it's that whole idea of not getting your hopes up so that you're not disappointed.
Yes. Yeah. What else did you notice?
Also, Charity and Aaron's first date, the vulnerability hour that we've talked about, where they are at dinner and now all of a sudden it's time. What are we putting on the table? Because our food's going to be on the table when we're not going to touch it. So let's put more on the table. So they started talking about his past relationships, and Aaron said that Aaron admitted that he wasn't really a great partner. And then he ended up working on himself and going to therapy. And obviously Charity loved that, being a therapist herself, but also just being somebody that's looking for somebody who's serious and has the ability to grow and change. She loved it. And she talked about her own self-love journey, which I thought was also, she didn't really talk about it with him too much, but like, I thought that was nice and a little taste of vulnerability for a first date, that sometimes you don't necessarily get in like a real life first date, but also in these bachelorette situations where sometimes they dive right into the nitty gritty. And like, I think they kept it kind of easy still in this first date. It didn't seem too serious. It seemed like a long day together, and maybe they like really got to almost like a second date where it was like comfortable, but still new.
Yes, I had the same reaction. Like, this is appropriate vulnerability for a first date, early date. I mean, sounded like they did spend like hours together. So, okay, like that's typical to like talk about past relationships, maybe early on in a relationship, of course. And I think even when and maybe it was the nature of what he shared, that it didn't feel like a trauma dump or like the trauma ticket to get the rose or something. But I feel like even the way he shared it kept enough boundaries around himself and his healing and his experience with therapy that was, again, appropriate for this stage of their relationship. They've met each other for 5 minutes prior to this. So, you know, it would be like, again, I understand like we're stepping into Bachelor world where like the rules don't exist, but it would be a little strange or off-putting maybe if someone were so forthcoming to a stranger, unless it was a therapist, you know? I mean, granted, she's a therapist, not his therapist, but still. And so I appreciated that. I think it showed a different type of vulnerability from Aaron, and certainly a level of maturity as well, for him to engage with her in that way.
Right. And like, it was almost like so different than other Bachelorette dates that like, I started to get a little skeptical.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I feel like he's holding back a little, and like maybe he could be a little boring. I don't know. This isn't too exciting. But also like we're just meeting him, and that's totally normal. So maybe I should look at it from that lens instead.
Well, and you know what? Unlike other seasons of The Bachelor and Bachelorette, I have so much faith in Charity to actually get to know these people and to actually get below the surface. I mean, she's giving therapists. Like, we see her in action. She's literally saying, "Tell me more about that." She was in a like little brief interaction with someone on the group date, and they had said like, "Oh, I just thought it would be weird." She was like, "Tell me more about that. What did you think would be weird? What did you mean? What do you mean by weird?" And I was like, "Yes, Charity, like." That is so your therapist self coming through. And like, yeah, like, don't just take these words at face value, like actually get underneath them so that you can get to know them. And so I feel really excited about that for her, about that for us as viewers, that we might actually get to know these men. That's something I think as an audience, we felt like we haven't really gotten to know any of the cast over the last couple of years. So again, I think Charity's gonna bring it home for us in a way that we haven't had the opportunity to, because she's literally trained to get to know people.
So excited.
So excited. Just making us proud.
Yeah. Did you have any other reactions?
I did. This is also something that's prevalent across Bachelor, Bachelorette seasons. And we saw it come up a couple of times in episode 2, which is this emphasis on the marital status of parents and the length of time parents are married. And so it came up, we hear about Charity's parents, and we hear about a couple of the men's parents' relationships. And it seems like, let me step back for a second. Of course, there is some meaning in being an individual who has parents that are together for a long period of time. However, my caution about that would be to not take that as face value, as, again, the golden ticket to this person is solid, knows what a relationship is, know what a loving marriage is or a good partnership is. And I feel like this is where we're not seeing the conversations happen in a way that I wish that we would. Because as I'm sure you know, that just because people are married or are married for a long period of time doesn't necessarily make it a good, solid, healthy marriage or partnership. It doesn't tell you anything about the family of origin's values, not anything at all. And so and
it doesn't mean that their kid is going to also have this
exactly
perfectly intact relationship for their whole life.
Right. And as we saw, tennis player Joey, thank you. I like him a lot.
Wow, look at me.
And we saw Joey, who has parents that are not together, almost say it so apologetically. Well, my parents aren't together, but there's a good reason. It's because my dad came out. And it's like, hold on, like you don't need to qualify it that way. Having parents that aren't together doesn't make you any less worthy or valuable as a partner. It's
eligible.
As eligible, yes, deserving, any of that stuff, qualified. And again, it's about the values. Like what I'd be more interested in is, well, are your parents together? Yes or no? What did you learn about love and relationship from your parents' relationship? How do you think that impacted the way that you think about relationships, that you think about marriage? Like that would be what I'd really want to know about. The number of years together or relationship status doesn't matter. And so I'm hoping that we see some of those conversations happen instead of, oh, my parents were also married for over 40 years. Great. You're on the list to get a rose.
Right. Let's talk about what you saw growing up. Let's talk about what you want to take from your parents, what you maybe don't want to take from your parents, what relationships were modeled for you, as opposed to this time stamp.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. So that was kind of a main theme I saw throughout the episode. This kind of, there were opportunities for deepening of conversations and understanding. And again, like shared values is so important. And I think that's oftentimes in Bachelor Nation why, and not even in real life as well, why relationships end is there's not enough of conversations about the meaningful things in relationships. We talked even about that in our financial wellness episode with our Revive CFO, that like in that aspect as well, there's usually a big miss. And so I'm, again, hopeful that with Charity, who's again armed with these skills, we're able to see her, or maybe behind closed doors. I don't necessarily need to see it. I just hope that she is kind of digging in and asking the questions that matter and getting the answers that help her decide who a good partner for her will be.
Yeah. I trust her.
I trust her too. We got you, Charity.
All right. Well, that wraps us up for season 20, episode 2 of Charity Lawson's season of The Bachelorette. But of course, we'll react to more of this. There's going to be so much more unfolding and so much more therapist-related things, as Charity is just a therapist. But of course, things that we typically see, new things that we haven't seen in other seasons that are just coming from our therapist perspective. So stay tuned.
Yes, we'll be back with more, and we'll see you next time.